The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to the WWE Smackdown live review for June 20th, 2017. Of course, we are the Wrestling to the Max here, and I'm your host, Sean Garmer, and with me today, not Paul Leeser, it's Mr. Gary Vaughan.
What's up?
So, Paul is taking the night off from both the shows today, so Gary will be with me on both of them. Always nice to have a different perspective here. And of course, I haven't been on shows for a little bit, so kind of cool to get back into this. But
different perspective, but you know, I may not be as sexy as what you usually get, but at least I'm here and I'm excited. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Paul has his silky smooth way of doing this. We're going to try to replicate that here as much as we can. But if we get off track, I apologize already. So, this, of course, is the post-Money in the Bank Smackdown. So, you know, coming out of the big controversy from the Women's Money in the Bank match, and they do not waste any time to let you know about what happened, because the women are arguing with Daniel Bryan, who has made his return as promised, and Carmella has that briefcase, and she comes out to talk with James Ellsworth. And basically, what Carmella talks about is that, look, my name's been trending all over social media after what happened, and you guys are talking about how I ruined the moment for the women and all this stuff. And it's like, look, I don't care about this. I'm not here for girl power. I'm here because I care about my future. I won. There's no rule that says that what James Ellsworth did is against anything. And she even talked about those internet trolls, Gary, that are pathetic and embarrassing, typing on their little computers. And then, you know, she talks about Bryan making his decision later, and nobody can do anything about it because she didn't break any rules. And I thought she did really well here to prove the point that, hey, look, I didn't do anything wrong here. I just planned out how to win better than the rest of y'all. And I don't give a crap about women's revolution, women's moment. Who cares about all that? I care about winning. The crowd didn't care when she came out, but they cared once the promo was over. And I guess that means a lot more.
It definitely does. And this is something that Carmella has needed for a long time. And I hope the crowds do get behind her, because it's obvious she's putting the work in. You can tell.
It just depends on what they do here. Considering the decisions that they made.
Yeah, but I'm just by what she did here when it comes to just cutting this promo, though. Mm-hmm. You've seen her in the past, Sean. You know she's not exactly the best on the mic. She kind of comes off halfway nervous, kind of there, really just more annoying.
She's always doing that gimmick, and it's just
it's annoying.
Right, exactly. It's just annoying. It's not. It's not a good heel. Like, oh, I just hit you with some truth. It's get off my screen. This actually was more of like what you're supposed to be doing here.
Exactly, and she hits a lot of great points. Everything she said here in this promo made sense, right? Of all these other girls get all the praise. They all have their own kind of catchphrases when it comes to talking about their abilities and all this kind of stuff. What does Carmella get? Nothing. Where do people hold her in respect to the rest of them? They really don't hold her in respect to the rest of them. So she did what she had to do. She won, and tough luck. That's what she's trying to tell you here. And like I said before, probably one of the best promos I think I've ever seen her cut. NXT here on SmackDown Live, and that's great.
It's probably her best promo. So,
oh yeah, it shows she's putting the work into it though. And I think even later you get to see more of that, and I'm happy with it. So, yeah, I'm giving her praise here, and I think it's well-deserved praise. Now, let's see if she can keep that and hold on to that, because she does need more exposure if she wants to go to bigger and better places.
Yeah, certainly. So all the women eventually get a spot backstage where they complain to Daniel Bryan about what happened and that he needs to make this situation right. And, Natty tries to talk about Father's Day and 2 Paws, but Tamina just says, hey, just fix this. Naomi talks about Bryan needing to make the right decisions. Charlotte says that, she came here to win and wants them to do the right thing. Becky gets into it a little bit with Sami Zayn, who happens to be backstage, because you get a Corbin and Sami Zayn match for next week. And that basically Becky doesn't feel that SmackDown is the land of opportunity anymore because of how things keep getting ruined. And, she might have a little point there. And then we eventually get to, later on in the show, almost right before the end, Daniel Bryan comes out to talk about the controversy, and he calls all the women to the ring, and he does bring up that there is no rule against what Ellsworth did. So they're in uncharted territory. So then before he can speak, Ellsworth calls Daniel Bryan soft and then talks crap about his baby. Look, if there's one thing you don't do about people is talk about their kids.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
Bryan absolutely lit him up like any dad would and just said, look, I'll punch you so fast you won't be able to walk, or something to that
You won't be able
extent.
to breathe is what he
Yeah,
said.
you won't be able to breathe, and I can certainly believe that Bryan will do it too. That vigor was there, and rightly so. Both of us having kids and daughters specifically, knowing how you get that soft spot in there if anybody talks about him, and especially the way Ellsworth talked crap here, saying that his little hippie vegan baby, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Nothing at all. So basically, Daniel Bryan, James Ellsworth might have made things worse by saying that, because he tells Carmella that she's going to have to hand over the briefcase, and they're going to redo Money in the Bank for the women live on SmackDown next week. And we find out on Talking Smack that James Ellsworth is barred from ringside. So, no James Ellsworth shenanigans in this one. And the ladies brawl afterwards. Pretty much what we expected. But I thought that I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a big on let's do this on TV, because I feel like you shouldn't take away from your bigger event to placate to the TV. But I understand that they're so, freaking out about ratings and all that stuff, and that more people will get to see it on TV. But I don't know. How do you feel?
No, I feel the same way, and basically you're telling people, you know what, you could watch Money in the Bank on our network, but you don't need to now because it's not even what matters.
To be fair, we are talking about $10 instead of $50. So.
No, and I agree. That's fine. I'm just saying you're selling that network still. They didn't stop selling it to people. And they're still trying to get people to subscribe, those that are still holding off on doing that. And you're basically saying, I know you may have wanted to spend that $10 to watch Money in the Bank, and you were considering it, but yeah, we're just going to put this match on TV, and it's just, and I would think that you should keep these matches in a serious pay-per-view or somewhere on a special or do something like that. In fact, if you ask me personally, I think you build up on that SmackDown, and then maybe instead of talking Smack that night, you play that match on, after talking Smack or during talking Smack or something, where you have to go to the network still to watch it.
I don't know that you can do that, because then that's just a bad precedent. That's a really bad precedent with USA that, now you're going to take away big matches from us? Like, remember how quickly they stopped doing the whole, we're going to have a special match on the network? They did it for like 1 week with Sheamus. I think it was for the U.S. title or something with somebody. They did it 1 week, and I'm pretty sure USA found out and said, this is not happening.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
It's the same reason why they don't show the house show dark matches, because then you have no reason to go to stay after a show, because there's no, or not house show, the after show dark matches that happen sometimes, because if they're going to show them the network, then why stay, right?
Yeah,
because you can watch this on TV. That's a really iffy territory.
Yeah, and I get that, but they do need the ratings. I mean, having this match next week is definitely going to be something to draw people in, and they probably will get a better rating because of it. And,
right.
It just, I kind of feel like, you had the opportunity to get this right the first time, and you should have just did it. You should have just had a clean victory. And I get the entertainment part of it and the controversy, which sometimes, yes, controversy does sail. But
yeah, I just don't like the take that I'm starting to see now with the people that go, well, you don't know wrestling if you think that this wasn't a good finish or whatever. It's like, no, there was a way you could have just had the match, and you could have done this differently and still gotten your same result. I get it. Like, we got to do this and whatever, but never use everybody's talking about it as a way to give this an okay. Because guess what? You can use that for anything. And then they never get to be criticized, because guess what? We're sitting here talking about it. They do this now with instant replay. When somebody gets an instant replay wrong, and they're doing it with the the soccer replay that I mentioned on Money in the Bank. That's one of the guys that comes in the studio. That's his whole deal is, well, it gets you to talk about the game more. You're talking about the game for the wrong reasons. You're talking about the show for the wrong reasons. And how much would people be talking about it if the match was great and you got a great moment for whoever won? I don't know, maybe a little bit less, but you're thinking about it as a good moment, not a bad one.
Yeah, and WWE's big on showing their history, right? And it's going to be hard for them to show the first women's Money in the Bank match without them showing that, hey, a man dropped the briefcase in a woman's hands. It had nothing to do with her being strong or her being able to do what everybody else does in a regular Money in the Bank match. So it just sets a bad precedent for history more than anything. I think that's what upsets people more than just the fact that this happened.
Yeah.
It's about the fact this was the first one. This was the second or third women's Money in the Bank match. I don't think we're complaining as much.
Right. We're not. But it's because you set up this thing about it being history and history and history, and then you make history by having a man win. All right. Whatever.
Yeah.
And
so.
I get it, again, about the character and all that stuff, but you didn't have to do that. So again, after belaboring the same point that we already have many shows ago here, let's go ahead and get through this, because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like it's the main part of the show. It just feels like it's the last 10 minutes of the show, and it's whatever. But so they decided to have a main event of Jinder Mahal and Luke Harper. And this was fine. The match was fine. There was nothing special about the match. You can absolutely skip the match and you'll be just fine. You might want to watch what happens after the match. Randy Orton shows up, beats down the Singh brothers again for like the 30th millionth time, and then beats down Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal actually gets thrown over the barricade. He tries to go for an RKO, but the Singh brothers come in again, and then Mahal escapes as he hits an RKO on both the Singh brothers. Okay, we've seen this one before. But how do you feel about the rumors flying that Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton are going to have another match, but it's going to be in a Punjabi prison?
Okay, so I'll talk about this, but don't let me forget later in the show. I have another thing that has nothing to do with the Money in the Bank for the women. It has something to do with the women in general, and I'll talk about that in my rating of this show. So just don't let me forget to do that.
Well, if you're mentioning, I forgot to show this to you because this was a thought that went in my head. Mm-hmm. They did a YouTube thing with Maria and Mike, but they weren't on this show at all, which is weird. But yeah, I think they wanted the only women's segment to be the Money in the Bank thing, but
probably so. And I get that they really don't have a point right now where they're going to use them.
I know, but they just debuted. You need to show them on the next TV.
I would hope so, and I think you're right, but I understand the mystery. Like maybe people are like, oh, where were they? What's the? I think once they have a feud they can set up, we're really dealing with the fallout of Money in the Bank. Probably next SmackDown they'll start to build it. I think really they were so focused on talking about the women's Money in the Bank stuff that they kind of left that out. So who knows? But yeah. Well, I'll quickly go ahead and mention this really quick so we stop talking about Mahal. Just really quickly, I'm going to tell you guys when we talk 205 Live later on our next review show for that. It's interesting, Becky Lynch's comments tonight when she talks about the fact that everybody else gets the shortcuts and it seems like, the wrong things are what gets people the chances and the victories. And Daniel Bryan makes the point like, well, I can't do anything. And she says, I just hard for me to believe that the right thing is not the right way to go. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But the one thing I want to say here is, my God, SmackDown, stop giving the microphone to every single lady in the freaking ring. I am sick of it. There's no point. And I want to say 3 words.
And then Tamina said the same thing that Charlotte said. That was the look. The look Charlotte had after that was like, oh my God, really?
It's the worst thing ever, Tamina.
Terrible.
Come on. You are a Samoan. You should have some fire in your gut. Let out some hatred. Don't. Anyway. So, yes, that was terrible. So, please, guys, don't do this anymore. Just let them, take turns. Have 2 of them say something one SmackDown, 2 of them say something the next SmackDown. Do it that way.
They all had to come in and talk to Bryan. They all had to say something during the thing, too. No, they don't all have to.
Yes.
They're there. That matters. Just leave it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh, and I should mention that Baron Corbin showed up during this, too, to fake a cash-in. Mm-hmm. This is what heels do with the Money in the Bank. I don't have a problem with it.
It is what it is, right? And we saw that.
It's to show that he's getting in Jinder's head, which is fine.
They did the same thing on Money in the Bank with Carmella. So it's just a given, right? But nonetheless, Mahal comes away with the victory on this episode of SmackDown.
And then it's hard to care when it's 2 heels, too. It's like, really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't care.
And I think that's the point is you're going to know that Corbin's going to wait until they have a face that gets involved in that, right? I just don't see him cashing in on Mahal. I just don't see it. Even if Randy Orton gets the belt back.
Oh, is he cash in on John Cena?
Yeah, John Cena. I think that's the one. I think that's a bigger matchup, and you hit the nail, the head on the nail, whatever you want to call it. I think it's exactly what they would want to do is Jinder Mahal and Cena, and then when Cena gets the belt, well, guess what? Baron Corbin's the next thing to come facing Cena. Makes just all sense in the world. So we'll see if it happens that way, but I think what they gave us here is what they wanted to when it comes to Mahal gets another victory, the Singh brothers do what they do, and Randy Orton comes out looking strong and all that stuff. So it's really what they kind of felt like they needed to do, but it also kind of came off stale. Like, seeing this same old story.
I mean, I think they did well with the promo that he cuts in a little interview. And that's kind of what this leads to, is that Orton kind of blames himself for losing because he wasn't paying attention. And so Mahal now made it personal because he tried to, the Singhs tried to attack his dad and all that stuff. So that was, I guess, his point was that, you made it personal. Well, I'm going to show you how to make it personal. And I think that's fine. Mm-hmm. Continue the thing along. Let's see when they name the match. What do you think about it? Punjabi prison again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just completely awful. It's been a long time since we've seen the Punjabi prison, so this could be something entertaining. I don't completely hate it, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people are kind of concerned, and I think there's a difference, though. This is not the same type of matchup. I think this is a completely different talents in the ring. You know what I mean?
Two more talented guys. Yeah, it's not the Great Khali.
So I think that's the big thing you got to take away. It's not a guy that kind of struggles. It's a guy that's completely able to do some of the things you want to see him do. So I think it's going to work.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll be worst match of the year or nothing like that. Like that one with Khali and it was Khali and Taker, right?
I think so. Well, it is awful.
So you get Big E and Jimmy Uso. Before this, they have a pre-match promo with New Day making a lot of prison references. And then they introduced the Warden, Big E, that's going to have a match with Jimmy Uso. I'm fine with it. I don't know. I think they do this stuff too much. Like, the Usos are not that hard, man. Like, it's just, it just bothers me that we're having to do this. Like, we're making it seem like these two guys are thugs that were in jail forever, and it's like they're not. Stop it. Just stop it with the. But this match actually was pretty solid. I hope we get more Big E singles matches at some point, because I feel like he could be something by himself. Big E hits the big ending and he gets the win, and I thought Jimmy got to look good here, and yeah, it's fine.
That's kind of what I felt about this entire thing. It was fine. The New Day did a pretty decent job. It wasn't too funny. It was okay. They got their stuff in. The Usos just kind of come out and do their thing, and you get what makes the crowd happy is the New Day winning. That's really all you get out of this. I really didn't feel like it was anything overwhelmingly special. I think it's just a continuation of this feud between the two. So there you go. I mean, I'm more excited about what we see next week than I really was about this week.
Yeah, next week, you got 4 matches set for next week. You got Baron Corbin and Zayn. You get the Money in the Bank for the women. You get Naomi and Lana set up for next week, as Naomi told Lana to stop sweating her, and she said something else too. So just, again, with the you know what, with Naomi it feels natural. But like, I can really believe that she talks like that, and she does on Total Divas at certain points. Like, Jimmy Uso talks like that a little bit on Total Divas, but just like, I just don't buy the whole, they're jailbirds coming out and being thugs. It's like, nah, none of that shit. But
they're playing to the hip hop culture, but they don't have to add in the penitentiary just because they're talking about hip hop culture. Come on.
Yeah, you don't. So yeah, because Lana complains that, which she rightly should complain, that because Carmella distracted her, she kind of has a gripe, and Naomi says, "All right, well, I'll give you another shot." All right, so we get to see Lana wrestle again, and I think there's another match that I can't think of right now that they set up for next week. Why am I blanking on?
I'm trying to think myself.
The other match for next week. I might think of it. I also enjoyed the Sami Zayn and Ty Dillinger commercial.
Yes.
For Sonic, with 2 shakes. Or what were those shakes?
It was Oreo and Heath.
Oreo and Heath, and Ty gives them 10s. And Sami Zayn still doesn't know what to do with it. And he tells them, well, why don't you just drink them both? And he's like, what? Oh, yes, I could drink them both. And he keeps taking notes. Also, the Hype Bros are going to have a tag match with the Usos to regain the number 1 contender spot that they lost because they weren't a team for a while. And we also get a Kevin Owens open challenge. So he wants an open challenge for a local person. AJ Styles comes out and says he wants to accept the challenge. And, but Owens says, tells him that he wants somebody that lives in Dayton, Ohio. So then the American Alpha music hits. Oh my God, they are alive, Gary. And Chad Gable shows up and says that he just moved to Dayton, Ohio this morning. And AJ says that he recognizes the address that Chad Gable gives. I enjoyed this match. This was a good match between the two. Chad Gable really got a lot of offense on the U.S. champion here. Owens eventually hits the pop-up powerbomb and gets the win, but damn, Gable looked good. And I don't have, seriously, if you don't really have a lot for them to do as tag competitors, letting them take a little bit off and be singles guys, I don't have a problem with that either. Yes, the tag team scene needs them, but I just really like the Gable in this match, and it fits Kevin Owens to try to avoid until he has to.
Yeah, it does. That's his thing. The one thing I will say is they played this off smart, right? You thought immediately, oh, God, this is going to be cool. AJ Styles is going to get a chance to come out and challenge for the U.S. title. And then they kind of switch the game on you, and you see, someone, well, at least both of them, in American Alpha that you haven't seen in forever. I mean, my God, I was calling the fashion police, everybody to find out where the heck these guys were. But, it's glad, like you said, they're still alive. They are breathing. So this was a fun match. I'm really happy. And, I'm with you, Sean. If they need to do this, they need to play them in singles roles until they get a tag match together for these guys. Let's do it. Let's just have them around. I don't like this whole thing of, they're going to sit on the sidelines till we finally find something to do. Let them do other things.
Yeah. And, it's... I want to see it happen. I just hate to have them break up as a team or whatever. I just hope that they can let them break up as amicably, where they don't have to break up hating each other, and then they can just reform if they get a tag team for them.
Yeah, you don't even have to break up. You just say, hey, let's do our own thing for a little while until we have something that's going to work for both of us. Well, think about it. DX did it. Different people in history did it. They just kind of did their own thing and then got back together when it was convenient. So, that's not a bad thing until something good comes across. Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Certainly, and then to end our discussion on the show, might as well talk about the best match on the show. It's a rematch of something we've seen already, but this was much better than the pay-per-view match. Shinsuke against Dolph Ziggler. The crowd was very much into this. You get Ziggler fighting for his life here with Nakamura getting all his stuff in. I thought that was a great counter to the Exploder with the zigzag for the big near fall. Nakamura gets out of the sleeper. He hits a headbutt and then gets the Kinshasa and wins. It's back and forth the whole time. Really, really good stuff. And yeah, I mean, they gave him almost like 17 minutes here, and I enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah. Heck of a match. They did a good job. You should expect this out of both these guys, though. This should not be something where you sit back and say, well, it could be. No, you should expect something pretty darn solid from both these guys, and they did a good job in that. So very happy with that. Really like Shinsuke Nakamura. We're in those black tights. That's cool. I'm glad to see him wearing those. Really, just to me, it made him look a little bit more menacing, if I can say it that way. So it was good. I have no complaints against it. And, Nakamura needs as many wins as he can get, but he needs to do them, looking strong. I think he did a good job of looking strong. Still, once again, maybe not, the Nakamura, those who knew him from back in the Indies or Japan, whatever you want to call it. When he was in Japan, totally different guy. But you're going to get that on pay-per-view. You're not going to get that on SmackDown.
I'm surprised we didn't have any more interaction with him and Corbin, though, after what happened at Money in the Bank. And we just had him in a match with Ziggler.
Yeah, I think it's really about time. I think you could really see a lot of this show regulated because of the time they had to spend on the biggest controversial moment of the Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm fine with them spending a lot of that time on the women's Money in the Bank thing. Just felt weird. Like, you had AJ Owens continue. They sort of had a beef still. I can get Sammy and Corbin still having their little thing, but just, I don't know. I feel like if you did such a big deal on the pay-per-view, you could have continued it here on this too. But yeah, that's it for SmackDown. We just got to give it a rating.
The show, for being, the post pay-per-view show, it had some good moments. They set up a lot of things to move forward, and that's great. And they had it, like we just talked about, Ziggler and Nakamura had a pretty darn good match. And you got to be happy with Kevin Owens having that match against Gable. So you had some solid stuff here. Nothing that knocks it out of the park for me, though, when it comes to overall. I think I'll go with 7, and I think for me that's a little bit generous. I was going to go 6. Maybe I'll go 6.5. I don't know that I love this show, but it wasn't bad.
I thought it was a strong show. You had good matches all across, and then you had the pretty good match with a Nakamura. I think you only had that one good match on Raw, where it's supposed to you have at least one really good one and then 2 good ones with Big E and Jimmy Uso, and then Chad Gable and Owens, and then of course Nakamura, Ziggler. You had the women's Money in the Bank stuff with it, which was built to really well. Very much like the Enzo and Cass stuff was built to really well on Raw. And then you had, the Randy Orton being pissed was built to well. Even though it is very samey, what we've seen, it's still, at least they had a little bit of a reason for it. So, yeah, I'll go with a 7 as well. And that's going to do it for us discussing SmackDown this week. Of course, you can check us out next week as they continue to build towards Battleground and whatever else has been going on. Of course, if you enjoy what you hear here, you can hear all of our other Wrestling to the Max content, whether it's our Raw review, our 205 Live review, our NXT review, which will be done on Thursday, or you can just listen to us on our regular episodes, which are part 1 will also be in this run of shows that we're doing. And, of course, that will include our ROH Best in the World 2017 preview. We'll be talking about the G1 participants that have been announced. And some more things, and of course the part 2 where we finally don't have some kind of pay-per-view to preview. So that one will be more free form there. So yeah, until next week, check out W2Mnet.com, check out 401.com, 4mania.com, and subscribe to that W2M network. Later, everybody.
See ya.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.